G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Fight week is this week. Wilder Fury 3, or Fury Wilder 3, whatever way you want to say it. And we've got a decent enough undercard. When this fight was announced, and the card was announced back for July, when the original date was supposed to happen, we knew about some of the fights. And to me, at that time, already I was excited and I was invested in the card because it looked quite good. They've obviously since added to this, and now it's not looking too shabby. So I'm going to go through the card. Going to have to give my 2 cents on it. Going to say who I think will win these fights and how I think will win them. And just basically just give my opinion on it, you know. I mean, I do review cards before they happen sometimes. Don't always do it, but this one, because it's a big event, I'm going to do it for this. So the first fight we have is a guy called Bruce Carrington. Now, he's a debutant at featherweight. I'll be frank, I've not seen much of him. I do know him from the WSB. He lost to Joe Cordina. Fairly straightforward loss to Joe Cordina, it has to be said. But he's making his pro debut against a guy called Caesar. Can't do 3-1, so I can't really imagine much. That'll probably be on, you know, the really early portion of the card, like probably like a midnight or maybe even earlier than that start. So we have that. The next one is a heavyweight. And by the way, there's how many heavyweight fights? There's 5 heavyweight fights on this card. Now, you know me, I love heavyweights. I do. Heavyweight, cruiserweights, light heavyweights, pretty much all the big weight classes, but heavyweight specifically. It's my favourite division in boxing. The more heavyweight fights, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And promoters like Eddie Hearn, he's smart to that fact that, like, if in doubt, put a heavyweight on the card. Because you're always going to be that little bit more invested. Obviously, you're not going to be as invested if it's a bit of a gross mismatch. But it's just that extra bit of excitement. You know, like with heavyweights, you ever hear the saying, one punch can change it? And it can do that in every division, it has to be said. You know, there are punchers in every division. But with heavyweights, like, if you're not noted as a big puncher, but you're 6'4", 250 pounds, and you swing and throw your best shot, even if you're not a noted big puncher, if that lands, it's going to hurt. There's no ifs or buts, it's going to hurt. So that's, I think, why I like it. You could be not a big puncher at, like, welterweight, and still probably, even if you threw your best shot, it might hurt them, might knock them out, but it's not going to do the same damage as a heavyweight. So first heavyweight fight is Victor Vikhurst. Now, I've seen Victor Vikhurst before. I saw his performance against Kamil Sakalasky. Well, he's done a much better job on Sakalasky than a lot of other people have, which is no mean feat. I mean, Kamil Sakalasky is one of them journeymen who you do wonder how far he could have gone if he'd had the right support, you know, turning pro, if he'd had a decent, you know, promoter behind him, if he'd had backing. Because Kamil Sakalasky is a journeyman who comes to win. I'm not saying he would have been world champion or anything like that, but he definitely could have made a little bit more visibility than going down the journeyman road. Because I think Kamil Sakalasky has like 17 losses. It should be a lot less than that. He's been robbed a few times. But Victor Vikhurst did a good job on him. Now, he's fighting a guy who's 6'1", called Mike Marshall. Now, I'm actually quite familiar with him. I seen him back in the day, back about 5-6 years ago. He was a light heavyweight / super middleweight at that time. And I always felt that even at that weight, because I seen a couple of his fights, they were on YouTube, that even at that weight, he still had he was in a lot better shape then than he is now. But I thought that he still probably could go down a weight, maybe kind of super middle. He got knocked out in the first round back in, and I just remember this because I remember actually watching a couple of his fights at the time when he was unbeaten and thinking he looks alright. And I remember he got knocked out in a round and he was up a cruiserweight in that fight. And I thought he retired, but he's obviously come back at heavyweight. Big boy. Not muscly, just fleshy. So I would imagine Victor Vikhurst should deal with him without any reasonable problem. You get knocked out in the first round. I think it was his third or fourth pro fight. It's not a good sign, although he's been doing not too bad a heavyweight. I just think that he's not a natural heavyweight. It goes without saying. He's a natural super middle light heavyweight. I think Victor Vikhurst should have an easy time there, but he might put up some stubborn resistance. Next is one of my favourite heavyweight prospects in boxing, the 9-0 prospect Jared Anderson, the real Big Baby is what I'm going to call him, because there's another guy who calls himself Big Baby, but we're going to call him Big Farmer, because you know who I'm talking about. And yeah, we all know that guy. But Jared Anderson I've been very impressed with. I think his speed, his punching power, everything is. He is one of the most impressive heavyweight prospects I've seen in a while. Certainly come out of America. You know, there's obviously been a lot of good heavyweight prospects around the world, but America is a place where, you know, I remember a couple of years ago, James the Beast Wilson was the kind of, have you seen this guy? And I remember looking at him thinking, this guy's garbage. This guy's absolutely garbage. Anderson is much better. You know, I'm very impressed with him so far. I think that they are matching him, you know, reasonably tough enough in this fight. He's fighting a guy called Vladimir Sentenska, however you pronounce that. 22-0-1 in an 8-rounder. Be interesting to see how Jared Anderson gets on with this fight. I reckon he should win this fight reasonably comfortably, but we'll have to wait and see. And the rumour mill was that he was giving Tyson Fury the business in sparring in the run-up to the cancelled date back in July. So make it that what you will. The next fight isn't heavyweight, it's a super welterweight fight. Rhesus Bartholomew. Ugh. Nothing against Rhesus Bartholomew, but he is extremely boring to watch. He just, oh my days. Rhesus Bartholomew is not fun to watch. I really do hope that because I'm going to stay doing all-nighter for this card. I really hope that his fight is on early, and it does, because he's not easy to watch. It has to be said. Cuban, well schooled, but I've said this before. If you've any friends who are suffering with insomnia, Rhesus Bartholomew, Robert Easter Jr., get him to watch that fight. That's a fight that neither guy deserved to win. I believe it was a draw. Neither guy deserved to win. It's a horrible fight. That was the fight he was in a couple of years ago. So, was it a draw? Yeah, was it actually? I know he had a fight, Robert Easter Jr. It was terrible. Yeah, that was the one in 2019. Yeah, it was a horrible fight. Absolutely horrible. So he's on this card. Then we J-Rock, Julian Williams. Has he actually fought? No, he hasn't fought since he lost to Rosario last year. I was very surprised that he lost to Rosario. Because J-Rock's very good. He's a very, very talented fighter, is J-Rock. His chin is just not the strongest, you know. But I remember that performance against Hurd. I didn't think he would win that fight. I thought that Hurd would just outweight him basically and just eventually wear him down. I know Hurd's not the biggest one-punch puncher, but J-Rock's chin is not great. He was performed very well in that fight. It was a very good fight actually. So he's in there against the guy called Vladimir Hernandez, who is 12-4. Is he a noted puncher? 50% KO ratio, but coming off a win over Alfredo Angulo, to be fair. But Alfredo Angulo, that was a super middleweight, really? Jesus. Alfredo Angulo, I remember him being down at 154. I think he fought Canelo. So that's interesting. This guy's coming right down, because this fight's at 154 pounds. So this is J-Rock's comeback fight. You would imagine J-Rock's interesting. You know, a fight I would like to see is him versus Erickson Lubin, because both guys have lost to Charlo, different Charlos. J-Rock lost to Jamal and Erickson Lubin lost to Jamel. Both were stopped reasonably early. Obviously Lubin was stopped in a round. Williams was stopped in 4. J-Rock was actually in 4 rounds a couple of years ago by an uppercut. So that'd be an interesting fight. Both guys. I think Erickson Lubin is fresher. He's fresher. Now this is an interesting one. Edgar Balanga is fighting Marcelo Esteban Caracas. Now, if that name rings a bell, it's because he actually fought Billy Joe Saunders on the Logan Paul KSI undercard a few years ago. That was Billy Joe Saunders' debut with Matchroom. And he recently, only in January of this year, lost a split decision to a guy whose name Sebastian Pasicha. That's probably how you pronounce that. On a split decision. That was this year. Now, that was back down at middleweight. He's fighting Edgar Balanga, who's a super middleweight, and even against Billy Joe Saunders, he looked a middleweight, this guy. And Billy Joe Saunders not a noted puncher. Billy Joe was able to stop this guy in 11 rounds. I would imagine Berlanga is going to win this fight reasonably comfortably. There's been mention of the name Jesse Hart for Edgar Berlanga. Now, Jesse Hart hasn't shown exactly amazing punch resistance in his career, but he's definitely a good fighter, and he's definitely better than anyone Edgar Berlanga's ever faced. Balanga is known because prior to his last fight, he had 16 wins, 16 knockouts, all in the first round. He went the distance in his last fight, 8 rounds. Balanga is... He definitely can punch. You can see that. He's definitely got natural power there. But there's a lot of flaws with Balanga. But make no mistake about that. I'll keep an eye on this fight. But I would imagine this fight's going to end reasonably quickly. I'd probably say about 3 rounds. I think Caracas should get out of the first round. Because he really does put it on him in the first round. So if he can survive the first round... Balanga's power seems to carry. This is from what I saw in his last fight. So... That could end at any time, but I reckon it'll go a couple before Balanga gets a stoppage. Robesy Ramirez. Now, he was an Olympic gold medalist. Lost his pro debut in quite a surprise, when he turned pro with Top Rank. Now, he did avenge that loss. It was a guy called Aiden Gonzalez. He lost that fight on a split decision. I don't know what that judge was watching who scored it split. Like it really seemed like he just got a shock. Turning pro, his style's changed a little bit. He is still a bit amateurish for my liking, from what I've seen. But, he's moving on, he's moving about. He's fighting a guy, Orlando Gonzalez Ruiz, 17-0. There's no title on the line, just a 10-rounder. But Rosie Ramirez, he was a very good amateur. It doesn't always mean you're going to be a good pro. Look at Tyrell Biggs. Look at Audley Harrison. Both Olympic gold medalists, and they didn't do really anything with their careers. But I'm going to hold out a bit of hope for this kid. Now we move on to the 3 main fights. The 3 fights, and this fight here is the one I'm really looking forward to. I think this is going to steal the show. This one right here is going to steal the show, I think. I think this is going to be brilliant. So we've F.A. Jagba versus Frank Sanchez. Oh boy, that is both guys undefeated, which I love seeing. Like, I don't understand why they don't do this more. You've got 2, I was going to say young, but Frank Sanchez, if he really is 29, he's had a hard 29 years. Best believe that. If Frank Sanchez is not 29 years old, there's no way he's a year older than me. No way. That guy has got to be. He's pushing 40. I don't give a. He's pushing 40. That guy. At F.A. Jagba's age, I believe he's closer to his age than Frank Sanchez is, but still, nevertheless, both guys undefeated, both guys prospects, both guys can punch. Frank Sanchez tends to box a lot more than F.A. Jagba. F.A. Jagba is very raw, extremely raw. For someone who was, a decent amateur, he never really beat many big names in the amateur, but he got to a decent level as an amateur. He is very novice, he's very crude, even when he's jabbing, he kind of leans in with his chin kind of wide, and I'm always thinking, oh, mate, you've been dropped before for being reckless by a journeyman, and you're born in with your chin in the air, man. It's not a good look. Having said that, what he lacks in some fundamentals, he more than makes up for it in punching power. Right hand, a bit like Deontay Wilder. He was actually compared to Deontay Wilder a bit. He is actually technically better still than Deontay Wilder. Certainly, at least when Deontay Wilder was 15-0 anyway. But he definitely has power, F.A. Jagba. You don't want to stand. Was it Brian Howard, the guy he knocked out last time? That was a good knockout. If you've not seen that, the way he just... It's hard to describe that knockout. You'd have to go back and see, but the way Brian Howard just folded to the canvas, it was crazy. Couldn't have landed any better, that right hand either. So Jagba certainly has punching power. It just goes without saying. Frank Sanchez is a lot more... He boxes a lot more. He doesn't have quite as many KOs. In his 18 wins, he's 13 KOs. But he definitely doesn't strike me as someone who's not heavy-handed or a weak puncher. He definitely can bang. I just think the superior skill and the technique of Frank Sanchez would see him through this fight. I don't trust the Jagba's chin. I reckon if you're putting money on this, I'm going Frank Sanchez 8-9. Between rounds 8 to 10, I reckon he'll stop F.A. Jagba. I think he'll be cautious at the start, but I reckon he'll find openings because Jagba leaves them. He does. And I reckon he'll beat F.A. Jagba. And if F.A. Jagba loses, it's not the end of the world. He can come again. He definitely can. Then we go on to I think this is co-main. Robert Hellenius versus Adam Kalanicki. Now this is a rematch from I think March of last year. Obviously I was very shocked when Hellenius beat Kalanicki. Even though I didn't rate I've never really been sold on Adam Kalanicki. I always thought that he was defensively poor. He threw a lot of punches. There wasn't much on them. But But I did think, I mean, given the fact that Kalanicki beat Jared Washington straightforward enough, and Jared Washington actually knocked out Robert Hellenius. Hellenius had seen better days many, many years ago. Like, I mean, he'd seen better days when Johan Duhaupas knocked him out. And that was in 2016. So you're fast forward to 2020. I mean, what do you expect? I was surprised. Kalanicki is only himself to blame. He left his chin up in the air and his hands down against someone like Hellenius. Ask Dylan White, ask Sam Peter, ask anyone who's been in the ring with Robert Hellenius for all his flaws. And there are many. There are many, many, many flaws with Robert Hellenius. One thing he's always had is punching power. Ask Dylan White. Robert Hellenius can bang. He is extremely, one of probably the most heavy-handed heavyweights in the division. Seriously, he is a tremendous puncher, is Robert Hellenius. So, for me, I've got to make a pick on this fight. If Kalanicki has learned what he did wrong and he can improve, he should win this fight. However, if he leaves his chin in the air again as he did last time, he's going to get knocked out again. It's as simple as that. I have to give a pick. I'm going Adam Kalanicki to win. Probably late stoppage. Hellenius never had the best chin in the world, but I don't think Kalanicki is the puncher people make him out to be. I think he'll wear Hellenius down and stop him late. And then we get to our main event, the big one. All the marbles, lads. All the marbles. Well, the WBC marble, whatever you want to call that. Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. It's currently Tuesday. Whether this goes up Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, I'll decide now when I finish. This fight is still going ahead. You know, touch wood. We get this fight over the line because God knows the history of this fight's been just an absolute, it's been crazy. I got to give a pick on this fight. Now, originally I was going Tyson Fury by stoppage. The closer we get to this fight, the more I look at Deontay Wilder, the more I'm convinced Malik Scott has actually done good for Deontay Wilder. People are saying he's a yes man. I think Deontay Wilder, I think if you're not a yes man, or you don't give off the impression that you are a yes man, he doesn't want you in his team. And I think Malik Scott is a little bit smarter than just being a yes man. I think he knows kind of how to get Deontay Wilder to do what he wants him to do, but without forcing it on him, if you get me. It'd be like, you know, kind of maybe using just like his own kind of psychology, just saying, you know, oh, brilliant jab you just threw, when he didn't even throw a jab. Maybe to just make Wilder throw more. You know, so he was at the same time saying to Deontay Wilder, yeah, he's cheating, you know, he's cheating. So maybe he's trying to, you know, get Wilder improved like that. Bit like how Angelo Dundee used to do it with Muhammad Ali back in the 60s. You know, I remember him saying that famous, I think it was an uppercut or something, he wanted Ali to throw. And he knew, no point telling this guy that. So I'm going to say, brilliant uppercut. You can picture Angelo Dundee. Yeah, brilliant uppercut, kid. Brilliant uppercut. And therefore he started doing it. Maybe it's something like that with Malik Scott. I think Tyson Fury should win this fight, but I think he's going to win it on points. Now, I'm basing this off the fact that Deontay Wilder, I believe, has recovered mentally from the last fight. It's been a long time. But saying that, if he still believes Tyson Fury cheated, if he's still holding on to this belief that it was loaded gloves, when he finally does get hit for real and really feel what Tyson Fury has to offer and, you know, kind of have them demons of the fight come back, will he capitulate? That's a question that I'm asking. I don't know. It's an interesting one, because at the end of the day, it's real easy to say you've got over it. You know, you've got over it. And maybe this is a poor analogy because it was very quick after the fact, but look at someone like David Price now against Tony Thompson. Now, very different. It was very, very quick after the first fight. David Price went back in there and, you know, they said, oh, he's addressed all these problems. The minute it got hard, the demons of the last fight came back to David Price very quickly, and he capitulated extremely fast. Now, Deontay Wilder, well, we don't know, because he's never had to show it, you know, in his career. So will that happen to Wilder in this fight? It may, or it may be that there's been such a gap from the second fight to this fight that it won't matter. And that, you know, even if he does kind of, you know, get a bit of a come to Jesus moment, he should be okay. Because it's not like It's not like the fight happened in February last year, and then in June, July 2020 they had the rematch. In that situation, I'd say Deontay Wilder would have been done for. It's been 19 months more, so I think enough time. So that is the card in a nutshell. I think I've done a decent enough job going through it. It really is a good card. My friends want to meet up on Saturday at a house party, and I'm debating because I might just cover these fights, stay home and do an all-nighter, or see my friends. Decision. I'll make my decision closer to the date. Right now I'm erring on the side of YouTube. I know, yeah, boring. What can you do? I make videos, I like doing it. I like talking about boxing, I don't like, doing much else, to be honest with you. Hashtag boring. Hashtag G-man no rocks. But anyway, look, we're going to call it there. That's my thoughts on this card. Let me know yours on this card. Are you happy with it? I think to be honest, I think it is a good card. I really do. I'm always one to say this card is garbage. This card is what. This card is thumbs down emoji. Not to upset any algorithms or anything like that. But this card's actually pretty good. I have to say there's some good fights on it. Decent names. Let's have it. So that's my thoughts on that. If you wouldn't mind, smashing the like button, subscribe, hit the old notification bell if you could, please. It does help the channel out, helps your boy grow, because I've been growing a lot on this channel. It's been doing very well as of late, so yeah, we'll keep that going. Who knows, might even get sponsorship sooner or later, who knows. But for now, lads and lassies, I'll talk to you. Peace.